Once again, the New York City Police Department is suffering intense public scrutiny over what appears to be very biased enforcing of social distancing measures by members of the police. Now, of all the people that were targeted for arrests for violating social distancing, 4 of them were Hispanic, 1 was white, and the rest of them were black. So of the 40 people, it's very clear that the vast majority of them, the overwhelming majority of them, were actually black. And this was reminiscent, and the detractors, the people criticizing this, say is very reminiscent of the stop and frisk policy from the early 2000s. And that comparison very can and very should rightly be made. Now, the New York Times reported earlier this week that the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office released statistics on social distancing violations from March 17 to May 4th. Of the 40 people arrested, 35 were black, 4 were Hispanic, and 1 was white. So that does sound kind of one-sided. I mean, that's pretty clear. Now, like I said, the critics of this, and rightfully so, do see this as a continuation of the racist stop and frisk policy that existed under the former mayor, Mike Bloomberg. In a conference at the current New York mayor, Bill de Blasio, when confronted with this, when people came to him and said, this is like the stop and frisk, he absolutely denied that there was any comparison. What happened with stop and frisk was a systemic, oppressive, unconstitutional strategy that created a new problem much bigger than anything it purported to resolve. This is the farthest thing from that. This is addressing a pandemic. This is addressing the fact that lives are in danger all the time. By definition, our police department needs to be a part of that because safety is what they do. Now, you could kind of make that argument that there is very much a difference between social distancing laws and the random stop and frisk policy. However, that difference doesn't really mean anything in the face of the fact that the policy is being enforced by a racist institution. You can have just laws and you can have unjust laws. If the system enforcing those laws are already racist to begin with, then the problem remains no matter what. Now, personally, I think that a lot of the social distancing laws are, while it would be good to enforce those laws, you essentially can't trust the bourgeois state to do it. I mean, there's really only so far you can go with trying to enforce social distancing before things do become a frightening kind of totalitarian state. And I think that's a very delicate balancing act that needs to be made, or maybe shouldn't even be made at all. But that's one issue. The other issue is the fact that it's being done on racist terms. Wow, imagine that. Police being racist, the New York City police being racist, and I think that's very much the point here. Whether or not a law is unjust can depend, but it's in racist enforcement of it is another issue altogether. So as people try to create more laws to deal with this, some of which may not even actually be necessary, of course, they're going to be racist. As we saw with the brief period in which manspreading, the problem that doesn't exist, in which that became a law, the only person that was ever arrested for manspreading was, of course, a black man. So it's pretty obvious that as you start getting into these very creepy liberal SJW kind of totalitarian-ish line force, like asking for laws and certain things that are just stupid, because apparently the people who think manspreading is a real thing, one are too evidently too stupid to just say excuse me and then sit down. I don't know, that's always worked fine for me. It's always worked fine for everybody I ever know. But the point is, obviously, when you create a new law and you give it to the United States government, you give it to the bourgeoisie, they're going to apply it in their way. And their way, one, is in defense of private property, or in this case, because it is a racist supremacist system, it is going to be enforced in a racist, supremacist way. So I think for a lot of these SJW types, they need to think much harder about what kind of laws they want to see enforced, and if this is the right time and place to actually make that demand.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.